Look at me jamming to the music. Do 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 do. Nah, I'm just kidding. On the buses in South America, Central America, and Mexico, they play music for you to jam to. And that's a total contrast to what the drivers want here in the United States. They will actually tell you to turn off your mobile devices, tablets, so they can focus while driving down the road instead of putting people's safety in jeopardy. See, when you travel to other parts of the world, you will learn that the way America operates is not the way they feel about things. They just do things differently. But like I said before, when I was entering this border, I had to stop at the migration, which is also known as the immigration center on the Mexican side before I proceeded to get my exit stamp on the Guatemala side. When you're crossing in between these countries, which I don't suggest you do because it can become extremely dangerous, you have to get exit stamps and entry stamps. If you're in South America, you hop in a cab and tell the driver to take you to the next country. They would literally drop you off into the next country without stopping at the immigration center. So it is your job to tell them, hey, I got to go to the immigration center so I get this exit stamp and this entry stamp. Because if you get caught as an illegal alien, some of these other countries, it's going to be a bad year for you. Your life will change forever. Like I was saying in another video, when I arrived here to this Mexico-Guatemala border, there was a bunch of guys bombarding me. You had one dude down there pretending to be a police officer asking me for my passport. And when I asked him, are you police? He confirmed, yes, I'm police. I gave him my passport and he basically held it for ransom. He said, you got to give me $20 if you want to give it back. And with my ghetto attitude at the time, keep in mind, this is my first time traveling outside the United States. I was like, just scoffing. I just disregarded what he said. And then when he recognized I wasn't going to give him any money, he decided to return my passport. And you got to worry about that when you're down to some of these countries. But everybody was bombarding me because they could see that I was different and I was a tourist. And I had my brand new shoes tied to the back of my backpack just hanging off, and I suspected that somebody was going to take them, but surprisingly nobody stole my shoes, which is a good thing. Like I said before, when you arrive to that border, the bus is going to drop you off on the Mexican side, and then you continue to the Guatemala border around that corner where you will see your bus waiting for you. Then you hop on. Be prepared to have a bunch of people begging you all in your face, just bumping into you, wanting to get your attention. A couple of them grabbing on you and whatever. And by the time I got to my bus, there was only two dudes with me, and I decided to give them a couple of Guatemala quetzals. That's the name of their currency. In this clip, we heard a loud bang. It was like, boom! You can see this guy standing up. I'm on alert. People outside are looking ahead like, what is that? But Guatemala is a whole different world from Mexico. See, people in the United States look down on the country of Mexico. But it's funny because the further south you go, the rougher it gets. Guatemala is a whole different world. You see the smoke in the background, covering the trees on top. It's very dirty down there. You see these construction worker guys, they was looking at me like, what the heck? I bet they was thinking, it's a black guy. What the heck? So while I was on this bus, we continued riding. And keep in mind, this is from 2013. So we was riding to Guatemala and we had one checkpoint. And a checkpoint in Central and South America is a military stop or a police stop where they tell the bus to halt. They get on the bus and normally check people's information. But since there was only like 4 of us on there, the Guatemalan authorities didn't even bother coming on the bus. But they did go into the cargo bins underneath the bus and inquire about some of the boxes that was under there. You know, when I saw these trees right here, the first thing I thought about was that Mortal Kombat movie when Scorpion and Sub-Zero was fighting in the middle of the woods. It was very interesting. I was walking through Antigua, Guatemala. That's a little tourist town that's north of Guatemala City. You could take a bus or a taxi there. It's your choice. I'm just strolling through the streets looking like a quote unquote thug. You can see the tourists in the background looking at me twice, like, what the heck? Because, they normally don't see people like me down there. And it's funny because I saw an elderly black guy and he looked at me with his nose turned up, even though I nodded at him. When I went up in a restaurant, I could tell that some of the tourist patrons there, I could feel that tension in the air as they were scared, sitting next to a real ghetto dude. It was funny. Everybody was looking at me like, what is he doing down there? But I was just looking for my hotel. Eventually, I had help finding it.
And let me tell you the story about this guy who, the moment I stepped off the bus in Antigua, Guatemala, he was trying to get my attention, almost grabbing on me. And you're going to run into that a lot when you're in Antigua because people are trying to make a buck. They're trying to get you into their taxi cab. But in this case, he wanted me to go to his language school. And I actually went there where you had to basically sign up for a class because Antigua is like the English speaking capital of Central America. A lot of people going that way. They stop in Antigua first to kind of like learn Spanish, and then they continue their way through the Panama Canal. You had to sign up for the school in order to get access to the accommodation.
So eventually, I ended up in this hotel. I forgot the name of it. I think it was the Posada La Merced. But once I got there, I had a voucher that I got from eBay, which came in handy because when we had a checkpoint in Mexico near the border, near Monterrey, I was able to show the authorities that piece of paper and pointed to it, let them know I'm going down here. This is my hotel room, had brown water. I would buy fruits on the streets that's already cut, and I will wash it off with this water and that's coming from the sink. And that's something that you do not want to do because I noticed that I was getting a little bit wheezy. So it's best for you to use bottled water to wash off your fruits. And when I told my grandmother about that story, she suggested that I use napkins or tissue to wipe off my fruits to get all that and bacteria off the fruit. Little room, basic, had a native feel to it. The regular price for this room, guess how much it is? $50. That's right. This small room cost about $50. Regular price. Think I stayed here for about 2 days. Very clean room. I liked it. Had a lot of native artifacts around the room. And it was a very clean shower, which I liked a lot because I'm very particular where I bathe my body. But in this clip, I actually went outside to explore the city and mainly to go to the ATM so I can withdraw some money. The Guatemalan people didn't really look at me any type of way. I was just walking down the street like a regular dude. When I finally got, there's multiple ATMs, but I looked online at the best ATM to use, and I went there instead. This is a colonial city built by the Spanish. So yeah, you got the tourist churches down the street. It was a pretty cool vibe. I really liked it. You had some street workers to the right who looked at me in a very unique and unusual way. Because like I said before, they don't really see black people down there. When you walk down the street, they sell you everything. I had to do offer me some marijuana. The indigenous people, they sell jade jewelry just all over the place there. But I eventually bought some wristbands that this guy was creating on the spot with any name you want. So I had one made of my name, and I wore it until it was unwearable. Another thing about Guatemala too, is that you see some pretty nice looking women. The women down there look pretty nice, pretty nice. They look very nice. Those police in the background, they looked at me really weird, unusual, but had a surprised look. Like I said in my video before, those are the type of looks you're going to get. Weird, unusual, confused, but surprised, but nothing hostile. Always keep that in mind. So just trekking down the streets of Antigua, trying to look like a student in this video, unlike my other one where I had my hoodie on. They had some delicious looking food at some of those restaurants. I forgot the prices, so I couldn't tell you how much that stuff costs. But they have the menu sitting outside, and as you walk past, you can view what you're going to eat. And then you can just walk in the place and sit down and have your food. In this clip, I was sitting on my bed, and the reason why I looked so high is because I was high on food. Did you see that corner store I showed you earlier? So I stopped in there, and I got some canned black beans, which you can find all over the country, some tortillas, some noodles, and this is the first real meal that I had in about 9 days. So I was just chilling, relaxed. And in that part of the world, sometimes you'll have a blackout. And sure enough, there was a blackout at that hotel where you couldn't see anything. And I think these backup lights popped on. Another thing about the indigenous people, too, is that I could understand Spanish a little bit, but they were speaking a different language. And I learned that there's a bunch of indigenous languages that people speak. Here are the most popular indigenous languages spoken in Guatemala. I can't pronounce none of these names, but you see them for yourself. In this clip, I was getting ready to leave the hotel. It was my last day there. When I'm leaving a place, I always think of the popular movie about quantum physics called What the Bleep Do We Know? How when a lady made a choice to step on that basketball court, her world changed. And I always think like that, like every time I leave a door, my world is going to change. I'm creating my fate. It's like another chapter of my life, a transition, if you will. I always look at things from a spiritual standpoint when I'm traveling. And I was somewhat on my spiritual mode. I made sure to have those black headphones in my ear for a reason. Because when I'm traveling in general around Chicago or whatever, I always want to look like I'm a student or I'm going somewhere. You don't want to particularly look like a thug in some of these places because people will treat you like a thug, especially a place that you're unfamiliar with. Now, in Thailand, you can look like a thug all day. People don't care. They know you're a tourist. Beautiful hotel, real cool guy. The man that runs the hotel, he gave me my email, and I gave him, that's him in the background, before I actually walked out. And he had to unlock the door for me. They have to unlock the door. By this time, I returned back to Guatemala City. I was saying before in another video that all the seats got filled on that bus before mine did. It seemed like nobody wanted to sit next to me. And I hitched the cab, had on my white shirt with the diamond designs, blue jean shorts, and white shoes. And the streets of Guatemala, they're set up similar to America, but you could tell that it's like I guess, third world country. It's a lot different. We was riding through the regular streets, then hopped on the expressway and continued on. The cabs there are real cool. They don't look at you no type of way. As you can see, it's a compact city. Everything is close together, small. It's funny because every motorcycle that pulled up behind us, I was looking out the rear view mirror to make sure that he wasn't going to rob us because, some of the robbers out there, they ride on those mopeds or motorcycles and would take your stuff. In this clip, we arrived in Guatemala City. This was actually when I was on my way there. And this is another cab. This is actually when I got to Guatemala City and I was on my way to take a bus to go to Antigua. And the buses out there are, I guess they're called chicken buses. I'm not 100% sure, but they're made like old school buses. So the school buses from like the 80s, 70s, and 60s, they get shipped to countries like these. And I guess people use them as regular commuter buses. And they'll charge you based on how far you ride. See, I got charged the most because every bus has a driver and a money collector. And the money collector charged me the most. I forgot how much it was. I think it was like 20 quetzals or something like that. But I noticed he was taking 10 quetzals from other people. And I'm assuming that they charge based on the area or based on the distance you travel. One thing I learned about the bus system, well, can't really call it a system because they're independent bus drivers who purchase their own buses, provide their own gas or whatever, and can charge whatever price they want. It's all independent. And in fact, buses or bus drivers start beefing with each other. And there have been some murdered behind some of these beefs. So they actually get killed. And you actually have these criminals who would make these bus drivers pay ransom money to keep on operating down these routes. And this bus I was on, the money collector was hanging out the window or hanging out the back of the door, yelling, "Antigua, Antigua, 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 Antigua." And passengers wanted to go to that city would simply hop on and he would take their money. This is like in the heart of Guatemala City. And like I said, in certain areas of Guatemala City, you see security guards posted with large shotguns. Like they just stand there all day. And that's to deter the criminals from doing illegal stuff. So you got to know which zones to go to. Some zones are safer than others. So once you learn these zones, you don't go to these places and you're good. And from what I understand, it was actually kind of unsafe for me to take the bus out there. And it's funny because when I first got on the bus, of course, I didn't know a lick of Spanish. And I think the money collector was telling the bus driver, how you going to come to Guatemala without knowing Spanish? Crazy. So I took the luxury bus up here to Flores, Guatemala. This is on Autobus Dorado, the luxury one. On the luxury bus, they give you sandwiches, water. It's very beautiful, tranquil. It's a place I definitely want to explore later because there wasn't that many people out there. I think we arrived early in the morning, but it's definitely a place where you can get in tune with nature and just be around a natural environment. And I had to go up in this place to actually buy a ticket. This is like a 6-passenger van. On some of the comments, people were saying that in this area, I didn't need to have my camera out because it was extremely dangerous. And as you can see, I'm all wide-eyed. I was healthy as heck, boy. I just got done fasting for 9 days. Ate those black beans and those noodles. And majority of the time, I was eating chopped up pineapples, watermelon, papaya, stuff like this. You can find a description to the whole video in the box where I'm talking about how I got ripped off in Guatemala. And then a blind dude started filling on the bus until he got to the side door and asked everybody if they had money. I felt bad for the dude, but I had to hold on to my money. I couldn't give him anything, and I felt bad for that. But man, I had to keep my money. I'm sorry, bro. That's just what it is. And I got charged the most too. I think I got charged the most. I wasn't sure. But, everybody else who got on afterward in some of the other towns got charged less. And like I said earlier, I believe these buses and vans charge based on the distance you're traveling. I think we rode past a prison. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember seeing what looked like miniature guard towers. And the reason why I say miniature, because they was a lot smaller than the guard towers here in the United States, but it had a large wall just stretching. And then you stretch it for miles, and then it turned and stretched. It might have been a military compound. I don't know. But it's funny because we rode past a sign that said Tikal. And I really, really wanted to go to Tikal, but I was running out of dough. At the time, I was doing surveys and I was doing writing. There wasn't a lot of articles available on the freelance website I was working on at the time. So the money was coming in too slow. So eventually I had to take the bus back up to Cancun through Belize and fly all the way back, which is a story within itself. I'm going to tell you later. See, that go Tikal right there. I really wanted to go to the left because that's history right there. A lot of when you hear about the Mayans, that's where the civilization is located in that general area. Mecor de Menos is the town on the Belizean border. And I stayed in a rinky-dink hotel for only $4. This is how I got here. The van dropped me off on this corner, and there was four. There was people who was forcing themselves to get into the side door because they didn't want to sit back there with me because I didn't know it was to stop. And when I realized it was to stop, that's when I started asking people along the way. I saw this black dude who looked like he was Belizean. Do you know where any hotels at? He told me to walk down here. So I walked like about 2 to 3 blocks to find this place. I used to watch this YouTube channel called P Drop or In Transit TV. And he did this trip. He went from Los Angeles all the way to the Panama Canal. And I was basically trying to recreate his trip, but I didn't make it. But this rinky-dink motel, I couldn't stay in it, man. I don't know what the heck those beds were. It was just a basic room. I couldn't do it, man. They got bars on the window so nobody sneak in. And there was a bunch of dead mosquitoes on that sink. And the showers looked filthy. And I could tell there was not many people that stayed there. I mean, it was poor. You do not want to stay in a place like this, man. I might go back just on some curiosity stuff, but I couldn't do it, man. It was just too filthy for me. It was a clean filthy too. It was just like third world country-ish. I spent some time in this computer lab, right? And I was talking with the people in charge of the hotel in English. And they was responding to me in Spanish. So I was like, is it free? And they kept on saying, yeah, it's free. I stayed in that computer lab. I made a couple of calls on the computer. It was a real cool vibe. After I finished using the computer, which was a couple of hours, I got up because I thought it was for free. Man, the moment I got up and walked out of the computer lab, one of the dudes who was behind the desk followed me. He was like Scorpion. Get over here! Told me that I had to pay. I was like, what's wrong? And he told me how many quetzales it was. It was a couple of dollars. I didn't know that they charged to use the computer lab. I asked them, was it free? They said, yeah. So that's why it's important for you to learn Spanish. Don't be an ignorant, lazy American like I was, because misunderstandings imagine if I didn't have any money on me. Misunderstandings can become very dangerous in this part of the world. And it was $4 to use the internet. It's funny because when I started talking in English, this dude behind me started looking like, what the heck? But I finally leave the hotel. I'm walking down the streets. What was very interesting is I saw like 2 women, big and fine. They was fine as heck. Had on nice clothes. I'm like, what's going on? Where are they from? I hope they ain't prostitutes. I think they was regular women. Please, if somebody been to this part of the world, please let me know. But they look fine as heck over there by the Guatemala border. Just walking down the street, I'm like, dang, man, I want to holler. They had on a cat suits with the big belt. I'm like, shoo, boy. Luckily, it was raining. There wasn't that many people out there. I saw a couple of food stands. Was people selling what looks to be rubbery pizza. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to eat that. The sewer system, like that's the sewer system that goes into the ground over there. It literally digs into the ground. No, that's not a sewer system. My bad. It's some kind of drainage to keep the streets from flooding. Because in cities that's built like this, the streets, they flood like crazy. The border was only 4 blocks away, but I didn't know it. But when I saw a cab just sitting there waiting, I asked them to take me. So you can hear our conversation right here. I'm going to end the video with the conversation. So thank you for watching. All right, here it goes. Going to Belize? You said you're going to Belize? Down here? All right, thank you. Wait. How much you, I want to go to Belize, to the border. How much?
Serían 10 quetzales.
50?
Serían $3 beliceños.
Yeah, a little bit expensive.
Serían $2 Belize.
Huh?
Serían $2 Belize.
That's $2 Belizean?
Yeah, $2 Belize. Ahí para la boda.
No, that's all right. I'll walk it. The border's up here, ain't it?
You la boda.
No, I'll walk. No, because 50K saw is a little bit too much.
Va por no tax.
Huh?
Do you want taxi para la boda?
Yeah.
Do you want taxi para la boda? $2 Belize.
It's all right. How far is it? How far is it? It's up here and then go left.
Va para acá, go left.
Go left. Okay.
Son 50 cuadras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Va para el left.
14 blocks. Okay.
Porque igual taxi va para boda.
Yeah, it's only 2 minutes. Okay. All right. No, it's all right. I'll walk. All right. Thank you. Gracias. I'll walk. 50 is too much. No. Well, how much are you charging to go to the border of Belize?
Belize.
Yeah, how much? Well, to the border. Okay, how much, Quando? Quando, how much you charge? You know what I'm saying?
¿Cuánto para la aduana?
Yeah, how much?
$3 Belize.
Oh, no, well, how much in quetzals?
10 quetzal.
10 quetzals? To go to the border?
10 quetzal, yes.
I think I got 10.
Good price. 10 quetzal.
Ah, sí.
10 quetzal, man.
But if I wanted to walk, it's like 14 blocks. Is it pretty close to walk, or you don't know if it's close to walk too, or is it close to walk, or is it close? Like how many blocks? 14. You gonna be driving? You finna drive? Oh, okay. Okay. This you? Okay.